What's going on, everyone? This is Mrxfix here, but feel free to call me Rob. It's that time of year again when people reflect on what books they read, so I thought I'd make a tier list of all the books I read this year. It's about, I think it is exactly 35 books, and I have it sorted kind of in the order that I read them. So this year has mostly been Wheel of Time, but what I like to do is read a fiction, then a non-fiction, kind of vary it up. And it's not always, I don't always do that, but I think it lends itself to getting a wide range of story, because crazy stuff happens in history, and let me make this full screen here. So much crazy stuff happens in history that it is, there's just some crazy stories that you can't make up. Like it's craziness. What I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to keep my S tier down, to keep it to like the top 3 or 4 books that I read this year. But we're going to see how it goes out, and this could adjust as I'm going. So we'll see. Starting off, I began this year with reading The Dragon Reborn. Now, I'm going to put it in A tier because I actually really like The Dragon Reborn. Eye of the World, I was like, okay, that was interesting. To The Great Hunt, it really started to pick up. But, The Dragon Reborn is just really where I fell in love with The Wheel of Time. I think part of it is because Matt is one of my favorite characters. I know, hot take, Matt's one of my favorite characters. But then that's really where you start to develop him. And Matt and Tom are just a power couple, and I wish we got more scenes of them. And I just love how he's starting to get his power. I'm going to keep most things spoiler free, or try to. There might be a few light spoilers. I'm going to do my best to keep all this review spoiler free. I'm going to do my best to keep all this review spoiler free. But man, Matt Cawthon is just such a great character, and this is where we really start to see it. And I like how. Also, this is a book where you first take that back seat from Rand. You kind of just see how his Tavir and how crazy things are, and how he has an effect on the world around him. And I just really loved book 3. Next up, we have Neil deGrasse Tyson's Letters from an Astrophysicist, and I'm gonna put it in C tier. It was interesting at times, but there's a lot of times where I kind of zoned out, and I was doing the equivalent of skimming in audiobook form. So there's, like I said, there's some very interesting letters, but for the most part, it was just, it was kind of on in the background at times when brain would wander. It didn't really encapsulate me, but that's going to be a trend as we see further in this list, that the more like scientific and heavy books kind of lose my attention. Next up, we got The Shadow Reborn. I'm also going to put in A tier. I think just the whole going into the IEO waste, and obviously it's been beaten to death how good some of the Roydion scenes are, but I'm going to put that in A tier. Man, there's going to be so much Wheel of Time just high up, because I really just love the series. But yeah, we're gonna keep it at A tier. I think I could see myself on a reread putting it over The Dragon Reborn, but I just loved Matt and Tom. That dynamic duo is going to carry it a long time. Like I said, I've heard on rereads it does fall a little. I think Daniel Greene has said something like that, where it was higher up than his first time through, but then it's still good. Like, it's still a great book, but he's appreciated other books. So I think that could actually happen in the future, and I can see it happening. Next up is Night by Eleazar Wiesel. I forget his name, but man, it is such a hard-hitting book. It's a first-hand account of the Holocaust and surviving that, and I read it all in a day, and it kind of messed me up that day. I came home from work, and I told my wife, like, I just need to relax, and we just need to watch some lighthearted stuff, because man, that is a deep and heavy book. Like, it's about the Holocaust. Obviously, it's gonna be disgusting, and it's just crazy the extent that humankind can fall in the evil and atrocities they can have, and kind of you see the psyche of how someone survives all that stuff, and it is a very messed up book because of its topic, but it is it's a life-changing book, and I don't know if I could read it again or listen to it again, but I think it is a very important book that just highlights that time and the atrocities that happened. So for that, I'm putting it into S tier right away. Hard book, hard pill to swallow. Makes you hurt, makes you want to cry. I do think I teared up during it, but it should be read. Next up, we have The Fires of Heaven, and I don't remember. I'm going to put this in B because the carnival, and that's all I'm going to say. I think it was an interesting take. I think it dragged on a little too long, though. The ending was good. I didn't see, the whole thing happening. If you know that the ending to book 5, the twist, did not see that happening. But yeah, I just think the carnival really soured the book, and it felt like it went on forever. But it was still a good book, still overall good book. Batman and Psychology. What is it? Dark Knight. I forget the subtitle. I'm gonna put that in C. It's kind of like Neil deGrasse Tyson's Letter from Astrophotography. Basically, it takes a psychiatric look and a scientific look at Batman's villains. Are they misrepresented? Are they misrepresented for the mental illness they claim to have? And short answer, yes, they all are. And while it was interesting for a little bit, I did find myself kind of skimming it. And again, all but 2 of these books I listened to in the audiobook. So you're gonna, whenever I say I read, it's listened, but same thing. Lords of Chaos. I'm gonna put it above book 4. I'm gonna put it above The Shadow Rising because it is such. It has so many events that turn Rand into the character he becomes for half the series, and who wasn't just awestruck and shocked by Dumas as well as the first time they read it. I went back and listened to that whole chapter again as soon as after I was done with the book. So I think for that, is it better than Dragon? That's a hard one. I'm going to leave it where it is right now. We're going to see what it is. Breach of Peace by Daniel Greene. I'm going to put in a B tier. I enjoyed it. I think I listened to it on a car ride, so it was all at once, and there's some really interesting things. I don't remember too much about it, but I remember the beginning and I remember the end. I'm lost in the in between, so I'm gonna leave it as a B tier. It was good. If you got, I think it was. Let's see, how long was it? It was not a long, because he has it on audio. He has his audiobook and it is the same people that read Wheel of Time read The Breach of Peace, and it is free on his YouTube, or at least it was when I listened to it. Let me see if it still is, but yeah, it's really easy to listen to. Yeah, so it's only a 3-hour listen. You can easily do that in a day, a car ride, and I think it was good, and I enjoyed it. All right, next up we have A Crown of Swords. It is what is this? The 7th book of the Wheel of Time. I'm going to put in low B. It could be in high C, though. There's a lot of setup in this book, and the ending is good, but I don't remember much in between. So for that, I'm gonna put it as a B. How should I put it in C? I don't. We'll leave it in B for now. I think one of these things is gonna get overcrowded. Marine Raiders. I'm gonna swap. Just we need some spread here. Marine Raiders I'm going to put as a B tier. It is kind of the history of the Marine Raiders, as it says. The subtitles, like the epic tale of blah blah blah. Good. It was a good historical book on the history of said Marine Raiders. As I've said, every time I say Marine Raiders, take a shot. It was a good history about them, and I thought it was enjoyable, and I found some interesting things. So yeah. Next, I got Path of Daggers. I am also going to put this. I think I'm going to put it ahead of A Crown of Swords, just because. No, I'm going to put it after it. Because it's ending battle, listening to it was kind of. It felt like it jumped around too much. I had to kind of go back and reread what happened because there's so much perspective changes, and maybe I just wasn't in the right headspace when I was listening to it, but it was kind of jarring how much they jumped around. Man, I'm gonna have to move these to B because they are a step above those C tiers, and I think I'd be doing them a disservice if they were because I think they were much better than the books in C tier. Being John Lennon, I am a big Beatles fan, and it was a very, we'll put that in A tier. It was a very insightful look into kind of his troubled past, and it doesn't paint him, it paints him in a very realistic light. He had some great sides to him. He also had some pretty messed up sides to him. So I think it's a very interesting way to kind of thought it was an interesting way to chronicle his life. And it was written by one of the Beatles' favorite reporters, so it was like someone that actually had a relationship with John Lennon, and he went through and kind of talked to all the other people, and it's probably one of the closest people to write about actual John Lennon, not just, you know, a historian looking back. Yeah, it was got on a 2-for-1 credit deal on Audible, and I was surprised with that. I know a lot of people I've seen online that when it's a 2-for-1 credit on Audible, it's usually that way for a reason, but I enjoyed it. Very insightful. Yeah, go check it out. Winter's Heart. What do I want to do with you? Alright, Winter's Heart. Gosh, I don't know. I'm going to put above Swords. Crown of Swords, because I really like how the Matt plot line wraps up at the end. I like how he accidentally puts himself into this relationship with another character, and I thought that was a very clever way and something I've never seen before. You kind of start to see how his Taviran nature is almost passively working for him. This is the slog right here. What is considered the slog is it's usually books 8 through 10. Some people say 7. I didn't think they were terrible. I thought they were plenty readable. We'll get to 10 soon enough, but yeah, I didn't think they were awful. A lot of people, I think people online have hyped it up so much. Man, dude, the Fires of Heavens in B. Okay, I'm gonna have to. This list is just jumping all over the place. They call us lucky. I enjoyed it more than Marine Raiders. I'm gonna put it at high B tier. It is a biography of someone who spent time in the Iraqi war, and it was very interesting. I thought it was an interesting perspective. And at the end, he's now a senator, and at the very end, he has a perspective of what it was like during the January attacks a few years ago, and it's crazy to hear the perspective of someone that was inside the building as it was being stormed and all that. And I think it just very interesting and thought-provoking. Go check it out. All right. Here we go. Oh, no, it wasn't. I think I'm missing Crossroads here? No, there it is. It's just out of order. So after 9, it was... Okay, I feel good with this. Do I? Next up is The New Spring. It's the prequel to The Wheel of Time, and I read it in publication order, so it came after book 9, which is when it was written. Ooh, I'm gonna put it behind Marine Raiders. It's decent enough on its own. It's just like I feel like the end is really what carries it. It's interesting because we do see some of the Aes Sedai stuff that we don't see the full-fledged Aes Sedai, or later in the books it's adjusted later in books it's adjusted because of certain circumstances that happen throughout the Wheel of Time. So I'm gonna put it. I think that's a cool perspective to kind of see how it was before those events happened. But other than like the ending really carries it for me. I didn't see the twist, which looking back at it, I'm like, how did I not see this? How did I not see what these one characters were looking for? But it's a very cute story. A lot of people say read it after the last book, The Wheel of Time. I don't know about that. I mean, yes, it gives you a little bit more Wheel of Time after you're done, but I feel like it was a very nice spot before the most hated book in the series. In the Heart of the Sea, I think I have too much in B tier, and it's making me. Which one of these? Move Path of Daggers down the sea. I I don't like when tier lists all go into one category, into one letter, and I already feel like that's happening. So, In the Heart of the Sea, very interesting. It's about a whaling expedition from Nantucket in I think the 1800s, and it's interesting. They lived a wild life, and there's so much fascinating stuff to that society on Nantucket that I think if you're an amateur writer or aspiring writer like I am, that you can get a lot of good ideas. Like even just there's this one part where they're talking about how sailors would come, and depending on the way they would whittle wood would tell you what they were looking for in a position on a crew, and that's just such a cool thing. That's one of the things I think that, you know, history is so full of cool stories and details like that. That's why I want to go fiction, non-fiction, and things like that. So yeah, I'd recommend it. It's a very good story. It has some brutal parts in it, but I would recommend it. Next up, even though it's out of order, Crossroads of Twilight, D tier. This book was the only book in the Wheel of Time I did not like. It was slow. It was a snail's pace. I think the whole thing... let me look and see how long. Okay, I can't find the exact time that passes in book 10, but the first half of the book spans about 1 day of time. That's another thing. Book 9 was also good because of the ending with Rand. But man, so much of the book is just people reacting to the end of book 9. And at first it was kind of cool, but it seems like everyone had the same reaction, and they just kept on going and going and going. And that was the only one where I felt like I had to push through to finish. And while I don't think you can skip it on your first read through, I would probably be hard pressed to read it again on my second read through. I probably should, but that's just my feelings right now. Okay, so after this, it looks like my whole read order got messed up. So we'll go with A Knife of Dreams, which I believe is book 11. Is that correct? Yes. I love Knife of Dreams. I'm putting in S tier. I think, especially coming out of book 10, I text my friend when I was reading, like, man, the first 15 minutes of the prologue are more exciting than all of book 10 combined. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was well written. It is Robert Jordan's last book, and maybe that also has some emotional. But man, I just thought it was so much fun and so cool, and it was good. I think, if I remember correctly, this is also the book where Rand and Min have a very intense scene, and it was rough to read in the best of ways. Like, you're just like, oh my gosh, what is going on here? Just because I know it's out of order. Mythos, it's basically a retelling of Greek mythology. I'll put it top of C tier. What I liked about it is it would kind of expand and fill in non-important things. So one thing I can think of is, like, talks about Kronos, and Kronos is supposed to be like this dark, brooding thing. So in early Kronos, the narrator Stephen Fry is just like, oh, you know, he had long hair and was like flicking it and everything, and it's just stuff that really kind of breathes and helps fill out the picture in your mind, and it keeps most of the main stuff there, and he does his research and things like that. But I like how he fills in, and he, you know, has different voices for all the characters, and it was just it was a fun read and a good way to re-experience those Greek myths. Alright, we're just going over. Next is Heroes. I didn't like it as much just because I was a lot more into, like, the creation story of Greek mythology, and Mythos is dealing with the gods, when Heroes is more of, you know, the demigods, and talks about Heracles, which I didn't know. Heracles, also known as Hercules is the Greek name when I messed up it. Heracles is the Greek name where Hercules is the Roman name. Did not know that. I always thought Hercules was, in fact, the Greek name. I was wrong. But yeah, it's like I said, I think because I liked more of the deity story better, it ranked lower for me, but it was still a good read. Patrick Rothfuss, A Slow Regard for Silent Things. Not my cup of tea. I will say, I think Rothfuss, I say Rufus, I think it's Rothfuss. I think Rothfuss actually has a decent narrating voice. I thought he did good well narrating the whole thing. The story just wasn't my cup of tea. It wasn't bad. It wasn't objectively bad. But I don't know how many more ways I can say it wasn't my cup of tea. All Quiet on the Western Front. One of the largest, or one of the most influential anti-war books out there. I'm going to put it in A tier. And for some reason my mind is blanking. The ending was not expecting, because there is a sequel to it, so I wasn't quite expecting the ending. But it's just a really good look into World War I and kind of what the men suffered and went through. The Gathering Storm. Ooh, do I like this more than Knife of Dreams? Or no, do I like this? Maybe I like this more than Knife of Dreams. Yeah, the thing is, like, the problem with the Wheel of Time, especially the first read through, everything runs together. So let me just do a quick reread it on the fandom and see what's going on here. Okay, so this is the one with the Min scene, which, yeah, so I misspoke. It wasn't Knife of Dreams. It's the one with the Min and Rand scene. Ooh, this one's really good. This is the first that Brandon Sanderson wrote, and man, the foreword by Sanderson like almost brought me to tears. Like, it's crazy. Yeah. Ooh, I don't know which one. Oh, that's hard.
That's what she said.
I'm gonna put it above Knife of Dreams because the ending of this book, I was 95% sure I knew what was gonna happen. Like, you're like, all right, he definitely can't do that. But man, I really thought Rand was gonna do beep 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 beep. Woo! Like, I could feel it. It was such a well-written scene. Man, that was so good. I get chills just thinking about it. And the whole... There's a part where it's like... It kind of reminds me of... We'll get to this later, but Fenrir. So if you don't know about the Norse gods, there's a prophecy that Fenrir would turn against the gods and be one of the greatest enemies to the Norse gods. So because of that, they go and tie up Fenrir, this great giant wolf. And once he's tied up and everything, he's like, I would have been a great ally to you guys, but because you have deceived me and tied me up, now I'm going to be against you. And it's that sort of thing. Ooh, man, it is... That the ending is so freaking good. Honestly, from an emotional standpoint, this is a hot take, and I am free to walk this back later. But I think it beats Dumais Wells for the ending. Like, just the emotional and the weight behind it was fan-freaking-tastic. Up next, Black Flags and Blue Waters. It is about pirates. Put it above Heroes. It's a pirate book. It's a pirate history book. There's some very interesting things. There's also some things where I was skim listening. So... So I think it does a good job of kind of taking a step back and taking away a lot of the Hollywood sense of the pirates. And it's an interesting read. Next up, The Prize. I don't remember much about this. It was like, it was recommended to me by my boss. It's about the oil field. I don't remember anything about this. So because of that, I absolutely remember nothing, because it was another short read. It's a novella. I'm going to put it above Crossroads Twilight just because it wasn't painful to get through. Probably because it was a novella. Alright, what is this? Towers of Midnight? Is that what's up next? That one's going to be an A, but where do I want it? Ooh, gosh. It's better than being John Lennon. But is it better than 4? Am I completely... looking to redo my whole A tier list? Maybe. That is a possibility. I might actually bump 4 up. Okay, let's not think about this too much. Or should we? This is my final year in review. I'm stuck. Okay. You're gonna just be getting some weird faces for this. I'm gonna put it... Oh, put it there for right now. Let me go back and relook at what happened in the Lords of Chaos just to make sure. I need a definitive answer. Yikes, I don't know. Was there anything I disliked in 4? I'm trying to remember. No, the Perrin in book 4 and that whole thing and kind of the way he works around that. Yeah, I think 4 is going to beat out Towers of Midnight, but Towers of Midnight is good. Don't get me wrong. The Matt, Tom, and Noel thing I thought was good. The ending with Tom and one other character caught me off guard. Did not see it coming, so I'll be looking on rereads to see if that actually makes sense. I'm still not sure, but Sanderson said that that's what Jordan wanted, so I might have complaints with it, but it's nothing that Sanderson did. That's just what his notes did. Memory of Light. Okay, so here's my thing with Memory Light. It's a lot of it is just a battle. And there's the longest chapter I've ever seen. It's like 9.5 hours for the final battle. And I was okay with most of that. But up until that point, I'm like, I know we're going to get this long. Because I've seen it on Reddit. People being like, oh, look at this chapter. It's 9.5 hours. And I'm like, I know we're going to get this long scene. Can we just get there? There's a lot of battles and build up to the final battle. And it was just kind of too much for me. I wish that part would have been cut down. So for that, but the ending, I think the ending was really good. Yeah, I think that's about where I'm going to put it. Above the Fires of Heaven, but below being John Lennon. Man, that seems weird to have a biography that high, but I guess I'm just a Beatles nerd. So, yeah, ending really good. I think they summed up well. There was one or two things I wish they did, but you know, you're not gonna get everything. One other thing that kind of was a drawback for Memory Light is Jordanson, is that the couple of Jordan and Sanderson? Robert Jordan did create such an immense world with so many characters that I felt like Sanderson believed he had to wrap up all the characters, and you kind of see those like third string perspectives. I'm like, I don't care about Oliver, and then, you know, man, Oliver does not deserve what he does, and I will stand by that. Never forgive him for what happened to beep 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 as he was fleeing. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. That might have been the one of the most jarring things I remember is that scene happening. I'm just like, that's how that happens. Screw you, Oliver. That character was too good for you. Yeah. So I understand that Sanderson probably felt like he had to do all those characters, but like I said, I kind of just wish some of the beginning would have been sped up, and then we could have gotten there. But it is what it is. Overall, I think the series ended really well. I think it's interesting that I guess Jordan was planning a whole nother series to kind of go off of that. So interesting. We would have had like a 30-book series, but here we are. I think it ended well as it is. Bear Grylls, Mud, Sweat, and Tears. I liked it. It was a good book. Do I think it's an A? And up there with All Quiet on the Western Front? I'm going to say no. But I liked it more than They Called Us Lucky. So we're going to go right there. It's very interesting. Just kind of his story. It starts with him as a kid, how he grew up, and I think the real interesting stuff was when he was doing the SAS training. And I knew he was in the SAS. I didn't know he was in the SAS Reserve, which that's weird because being an American, I wouldn't think there's, you know, a Navy SEALs Reserve. But, you know, it was interesting, and the training was intense, and it was really cool. And I think if you're ever going to write like a training scene or like a drill sergeant scene in a book, go listen to that because it is crazy some of the stuff he had to do in the SAS training. Next up is Elantris. As I reviewed, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. But how does it match? Well, now it's making me challenge trying to review because the ending of Elantris. Sorry if I say Elantris. Sometimes it's that Michigan A. Yeah, like bag, tag, Elantris. The ending's really good. It took me a while to get into, though. I think I need to reevaluate what I left it, but we'll put it in C tier. we're gonna move Path of Daggers up a little bit now that I'm thinking about it. I left that was my first booktube video, was talking about Elantris, and I guess I was a little probably not recent. I don't know. Maybe I just didn't think of it in the grand scheme of things. The Killing Joke, I thought it was good. See, it's a short novella. I'm gonna put it right there. It's like freaking 40-50 pages. It's a comic book talking about the Joker. Very interesting. It's dark and twisted. The ending kind of felt left some to be desired, but you know, it's a short comic book. So yeah, got nothing else to say about that. Well, at least I got, right now it's perfectly balanced as all things should be. But I guess one more here or a couple more here would make it really balanced. This Is How You Lose a Time War. Also a short novella. I think it's like 7 hours, so maybe it's less than that. But I read it in 2 sittings driving down from my work winter meetings, driving back up. I thought it was, I liked it. It was different. It is told mostly in the perspective of letters. It's 2 people basically leaving dead drops to each other, and it's very poetic and kind of flowery in that way. Where do I think it is, though? Huh. Part of me wants to put it, I think it might be B tier. But like top B tier. Do I think? Huh. I think I'm gonna put it after Bear Grylls. Just because, like I said, I think Bear Grylls and his story, you can glean a lot for, you can kind of borrow for other stories, and kind of gives you a lot more of an insight into just the training of special forces and all that. So I think from an aspiring writer, you can glean a lot more from that. But I think I love the I believe it was 2 authors wrote on This Is How You Lose Time War, and it was solid. I like the poetic flow to it, and the prose is really nice. And it's I've heard it compared to a Romeo and Juliet story. Not quite, but it is actually a love story, and I think it's done really well, and they execute it really well. Next up, we got my first Night Shelf book. What's a Night Shelf book to me? Yeah, I said that right. That's a book that's on my night. Next we got our I need water. Next we got my first nightstand book. What's a nightstand book, you ask? It's in the title. It's a book. It's one of the 2 physical books I actually sat down and read this year. Put on my nightstand, and I usually read it at night. I've started to do that more consistently. There's Devil in the Drum took me probably about 7 months to read, just because I was so off and on about it. But now I'm trying to do at least 20 pages a night of my nightstand book for 4 or 5 nights out of the week. Probably 4. So that's about 80 pages in that. But there's Devil in the Drum. It is a first-hand account of World War I. Unlike All Quiet on the Western Front, which is actually, it's an historical fiction. It's not a first-hand account, but it was, All Quiet on the Western Front was written by a veteran, so there's probably a lot of first-hand stuff in there. But it's the end. It's a fictional story, but I include it in nonfiction because it has such a thing. It has such a place in our society. But back to There's Devil in the Drum. It's about an Irish chap that joins up with the regulars there and goes through World War I. Where do I put it? I think it's going to end up in C. I'm going to put it above Black Flags and Blue Waters. Very interesting if you're interested in World War I and are okay with first-person biographies and narrative. If you're good with first-person biographies and things like that, it's nice being an American, and you know, over about almost 100 years removed, there's some terms and lingo that I had to look up just to kind of know what they were talking about. But overall, I thought it was a good read. The Hope of Elantris. It's like a 30-minute dramatized audiobook. I think it's like, it was my shortest book on Goodreads this year because it's like less than 50 pages. It's not necessary if you're like, oh, Elantris is okay, you know, I'm happy with how it ends. You don't need to read The Hope of Elantris. It's basically a different perspective during the final battle. It has some some nice parts to it. It's has a very wholesome ending. But yeah, I'm gonna put it definitely below Elantris. I'm gonna put it above Letters of an Astrophysicist. Yeah, I think that's a good spot. Next up, we got Piercing the Veil, the book 1 of the Veil Saga. This was written by a local author from where I'm from, Stephen Guglich. I'm sorry, Stephen, if I'm pronouncing your last name wrong. I've never asked you how you actually pronounce it. It's his first book. It's self-published. I think, okay, if I can be brutally honest, I Stephen has a lot of potential. His world building is outstanding. I think he does a great job with the world, but the concept just wasn't for me. I think it's interesting. I'm trying to think of. He has almost like an historical fiction sense for part of it, and while I've written a few historical fiction short stories, it wasn't the historical piece I would have chosen, and I think it was more my brain was acting weird and couldn't get over who it was. But overall, like I said, I think he has a lot of potential. I would be interested to see where it goes further, or if he branches off from the main character and where he explores the world more. But I'm gonna end up putting it in C tier. Where, let's see, I think it's gonna go above the Hope of Elantris. So yeah, Stephen, if you're watching this, I think you're a great writer. It's just, like I said, it wasn't for me. And that's not a knock on you. I just want to make that clear. I feel bad because like we have an acquaintanceship. Like I've seen him at the gym and all that before. Maybe not the gym. I've seen him at Walmart. I don't know. I've seen him around and we've talked a little bit. And he's a really nice dude. I can't speak enough. If you like historical fiction and fantasy in general, go check it out. I really hope you like it. It does a great job. His world building is phenomenal. Go check it out. Norse mythology. Okay, this is the last book I've read this year, and I did start Warbreaker today, but I don't think I'm going to finish by that. I don't think I'm going to finish that by the end of this year. So, man. Okay, here's my predicament. I like, in general, the stories of the Norse mythology better than Greek mythology, but I think I like the narration of Stephen Fry better. And I think Stephen, I don't know if it's Stephen or Stephen, or I'm just look foolish for using both pronunciations this way. I think I like the way Fry fills it out more, and I wish there was kind of more to that in Norse mythology. So I like mythos better. I think the Norse mythology is better than Heroes. I made a decision. Okay, we're going to put that before there's Devil in the Drum. Let's go back through this. For S, we have Night, The Gathering Storm, and A Knife of Dreams. I feel pretty happy with those three. In A tier, we have Dragon Reborn, The Lords of Chaos, The Shadow Rising, Towers of Midnight, Being John Lennon, Memory Light, The Fires of Heaven, and All Quiet on the Western Front. I think. Now I'm second guessing myself if I'm putting All Quiet on the Western Front higher because it kind of has like a foothold in society. I think from a listening standpoint, I had a more enjoyable time listening to the Bear Grylls story than All Quiet on the Western Front. So I'm going to do that. Then we'll go. Sorry, All Quiet on the Western Front. You're kind of sliding here. Okay, I'm good with that. So B, we have This Is How You Lose the Time War, All Quiet on the Western Front, They Called Us Lucky, Breach of Peace, Marine Raiders, A New Spring, Winter's Heart, a Crown of Swords, and In the Heart of the Sea. Yeah, I'm good with that. The next we have Path of Daggers, Mythos, Elantris, Killing Joke, Norse mythology, Devil in the Drum, Black Tides, Blue Waters, Heroes, Piercing the Veil, The Hope of Elantris, Letters from an Astrophysicist, Batman, Psychology. Now I'm wondering if I should bump some down. No, I think this is a good spread right here, and I do think these are a step above. Then D, lastly, Slowly Regard the Silent Things. Just not my cup of tea. I think there are others that will like it. especially if you like the way Rothfuss in his prose is before, and if you like what's her name, the girl that lives underneath the college or school. If you like her, then I think you'll enjoy it. It's a very interesting take on someone with some sort of mental handicap. And he says that it's kind of, he wanted to get in the mind of that. Not even a mental handicap. I think it's like OCD or something like that. But yeah, not my thing. The prize, couldn't even tell you what it's about. Most people won't be, 99% of people won't be interested in this. Yeah, so no point in watching it. Then Crossroads of Twilight. If you've read Wheel of Time, you'll know why. I know I said I'd put out the Warbreaker video on January 1st, but I think that's not enough time because it took me so longer than I thought it would take to edit it. So we're going to push it back 1 week. So that would be the 8th, I believe. Let me make sure I'm doing my math right here before I'm just going on with my screen. Yeah, we'll go with the 8th. So come back on the 8th for a discussion of Warbreaker. Hopefully that gives you enough time to read it. I'm like 3 or 4 chapters in, and I'm enjoying it right now. So I think I'll have a lot to say about it, and I'm kind of doing it a different style where I'm recording myself as the story progresses. So I've already had like 2 or 3 story breaks now, and like I said, I'm only 3 or 4 chapters in, maybe 5 or 6, I don't know. Anyways, I'm still early on in the book, so yeah, join me there. Hope you guys all have a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays if you're celebrating more than Christmas, or if you're celebrating less. I hope you have a great time off work if that's possible, and I hope you guys have a Happy New Year. Peace out.